Hello everybody, this is Lucas Crane from The Left Gate, and today we'll be checking out the Line 6 Metallurgy plugins. I've owned these plugins for a couple of years, but I really haven't had the time to review them. So now's the time for the review. First of all, I'll play tiny clips from 4 different pretty popular songs. If you know all the songs, leave them in the comments below. If you know only a couple of them, put them in the comments below. The clips are with the guitars, plus bass and drums. No post-processing on the guitars, only straight from the amp sim tones. No post-EQ, no compression, nothing. In my opinion, the modern suite is the best, so for that there will be 2 clips, and they will be done with this Jackson Josh Smith SL7 Evertune. And then the other suite, the Thrash and the Doom suite, will be done with this Jackson TY27. So yeah, here are the clips. Enjoy. So now you have heard the plugins in the full demo mix, and let's check the plugins themselves out. So here I have all the plugins opened, and I'll start with the global features that are in all of the plugins, as you can see. So there's a digital capo, which means like a pitch shifter, which goes from -5 to +5. And then they have 2 tracking modes, which are fast and stable. I have used these plugins quite much back in the days before I started to play with the Neural DSP plugins. So I kind of compare these, but I really haven't noticed any latency issues with the stable ones or any sound issues with the fast ones. So I just go with fast, because if there is a delay, I don't want a delay when I'm playing. Then there is a noise gate, and compared to the Neural noise gate, the Neural one is much better. With the pitch shifter for going down, I guess the Neural is better, but for going up even 1 semitone with the Neural stuff, it sounds really digital. There's a lot of artifacts, and I really don't like the sound of the Neural DSP pitch shifter for tuning up. But with Line 6 stuff, with the Metallurgy plugins, and with my trusted HX Stomp XL, which I currently use for live setting, the pitch shifter is surprisingly good both ways, for going up and for going down. With the HX Stomp, I've gone +2 semitones, and you can kind of hear it's a little like artificially bright, the sound, but it's really not that bad. And then we have features such as the dynamic low pass filter, which this is kind of like the trick that Buster Odeholm uses, if you have seen the videos of him, where you basically take a dynamic EQ, put it to the high end from like 2K and upwards, and then you put it that it ducks the high frequencies immediately after a pick strike. So this kind of does it like automatically. And then there is the threshold, which is pretty straightforward. And then there is an adjustable decay. So this like noise reduction, noise gate stuff, it's more adjustable than the Neural DSP. There's just something with this that I really don't like, because even with the decay at 10 milliseconds, I have to keep the threshold at around minus 50 to minus 40 decibels, because otherwise it clamps too hard that I can't get sound. But when the threshold is lower, like minus 50 for example, there is still some like some of your playing is like at normal volume, and then it kinda clamps it down, but it doesn't mute, it just brings it down a lot. So I guess this is more like realistic in terms of like if you have a physical noise suppressor pedal or noise gate pedal from like 90s, 2000s, early 2010s. But I guess nowadays, like physical pedals of noise gates, for example, the precision drive as a gate and that kind of stuff. So I guess nowadays it's possible to get tighter sounds with the noise gate. So that's where Neural wins, but this is still okay. Then this is kind of nice, the focus filter. So you know when you palm mute, like long palm mutes, it kind of starts to like boom the sound, which is, at least for me and my setup, is around 140 hertz. So this focus filter is kind of like, acts like a dynamic EQ for that, to get rid of that. Because especially when you're mixing, you really don't want a guitar taking all the like low end, low mids. That's sort of like 120 to 200 range, because there is the kick and the snare and the bass all right around that region. So leaving the low end for those things and keeping the guitar a little more in the high end, high mids, high end, it really helps. But this, I found that this is quite aggressive with it. So I don't know if you heard in the demo songs, especially with the stock cabs here and the focus filter, it sounds quite lifeless. So you really need to do some EQ moves. And of course you have a tuner, could be a needle tuner or a strobe, like Peterson type tuner. And it's also MIDI mappable. So actually one quite funny thing I just found out is, I guess these plugins don't have resizable UI, so we're gonna check the plugins this way. I can't get it to full screen or anything. Yeah, now let's go through the plugins one by one, and let's start with my favorite and probably the most popular of these, the Modern. Of course, there are many plugins that are like catered towards modern metal players, but this one is one of those. Yeah, let's go through the amps first. So here's the Archetype, which I believe is a PRS Archon amplifier. I will check these because Line 6 does not have licenses for all these amps. But for this amp they have. It's the Rev Generator. If I remember correctly, when I used to use these for recording, I remember correctly, the Leftgate's first song, Safe House, and the second song, also Digital Revolution, are both done with these plugins. These were before I switched to Neural. So I believe this is the amp that I liked to use. At least in Digital Revolution, I guess I used this, because this sounds extremely good with low-tuned guitars, surprisingly, or I don't know, surprisingly maybe. For me it was surprising because I never really thought of rev amps like modern metalcore amps. And this also has the purple channel and the red channel. And this is what I really like, the 3-position aggression switch. It shapes the tone real nicely. Then we have the vitriol, which is basically a PV invective. And the invective, it's made, I don't know if it's a collaboration or purely the design of Misha Mansour from Periphery. I'm butchering all these names, but Misha from Periphery. This is the most 5150 type of sound that is in this plugin. But this has like its own character still. And this plugin doesn't have, or any of these don't have 5150s in there. So this is the closest you can get to that type of sound. And then last we have the Badonk, which is Line 6 own amp. And this is modeled like after the Line 6 big bottom amp from Pod Farm. So if you're looking for that Buster Odeholm Thal style, this is the closest you can get with these plugins, even though Buster himself has made comparisons from the Badonk to the big bottom, and it's really not the same type of sound, but it's the closest you can get to that Thal sound. And then the cabs, I'm not sure if these are the same in every single one of them. There are 3 cabs with T75 speakers and 5 Vintage 30 cabs. So I don't know if I should go over these, but of course there's an orange cab 2x12, 4x12 Sun cab. Know what this one is because the Mesa oversize cab is over there, and Uber is probably a Bogner cab or some. I really don't know what these cabs are made. I just know orange, Sun, and the Mesa oversize. But I have found that the Cali V30 is the best sound of these. Now, usually, as you can see, there is a possibility to download your own or upload your own impulse responses into these. That's what I usually do with these plugins. It's actually kind of like the first time I used the Line 6 cabs. I made this tone right here. It's the vitriol and these mic settings. And the thing why I usually don't use the Line 6 impulse responses is that they usually are quite like dull. There's a lot of mids, not a lot of low end, not a lot of high end. So for mixing, it's probably okay. But when I play alone without mixing and that kind of stuff, I'm not a huge fan of these. And then there's also a little like channel strip, which gives you 4 adjustable bands of EQ. Now, the EQ itself, it's pretty good, but I dislike the fact that there is not an adjustable Q value for the EQ. So you just select the frequency and how much you want to boost it or how much you want to cut it, but there's not a possibility to change how tight the EQ curve is. And lastly, the post effects. There's a chorus and a reverb. This is also kind of like, as you can see, mod echo chorus. So there's a chorus, there's an echo, so like a delay, basically. And there's a hall reverb. You can kind of tweak it how much you want. Like for modern music, modern metal, especially for rhythm guitars, you usually don't need these. Maybe for like clean ambient mic stringer stuff. And also, let's go through the pre-effects. So here's a compressor. I don't know what compressor that is. I don't use it that often, but now I want. Then there's the Minotaur distortion overdrive pedal, which is of course modeled after the Klon Centaur pedal. And then there's the caliper drive, which I guess everybody can kind of figure out that this is a precision drive. Yeah, this is the modern. Let's go to my other favorite, which is this right here, the thrash. Well, this thrash plugin is obviously meant for thrash metal type of sounds. First, I will check the cab section. So yeah, there are differences in the cabs, but there is still the Kali V30 and the Mesa Oversize V30. But I also believe this is the Marshall 1960 cab, and it's a 4x12 orange instead of the 2x12 in the modern suite. So just like the modern suite, this has also four different amps, and here's the Rivet Clean, which to me looks like a Roland Jazz Chorus. I really think this is that. This is probably a Mesa Mark IV. These are like the pinnacle of thrash metal amplifiers. I'm really not that big of a thrash metal fan, but I like the tones and Siloses. Then there's the Placator Dirty, or however you pronounce that. This is modeled after Friedman BE 100. So this is kind of like a very pushed Marshall sound, because you know the Marshall like JCM 800s, they don't have that much gain stock. They are usually modded and boosted with an overdrive and all that kind of stuff. So this is good for that. And then there's my favorite amp from this plugin suite, which is the Das Benzin, which is of course a diesel amp. At least from my knowledge, it's the VH4, which is one of my favorite amps. Also, I have a video of one of my presets from the HX Stomp that uses the VH4 model, and I also used it with my live tone that is inside this. If you want to hear from the live tone or hear about my first live gig experience with my band, leave the comment below and I'll talk some about it. But yeah, this is what I really like. I use it for kind of like a North Lane type sound, because I heard that they used diesel amps with their album Alien. So I was like, I must try diesel amps with the HX Stomp. But then I found out that the Amp Hub presets that I was able to swear that they were VH4, it was actually the Diesel Herbert. But yeah, the DNA stays the same. It's a diesel amp, even though it doesn't sound exactly the same. This amp also has 2 channels, a mega channel, which is kind of like crunchy. You can see from the bottom there's some information. So the mega is like a crunchy sound, and the lead is the super high gain sound. Now, with modern metalcore in mind, I would use also the mega, so the crunch channel. I believe this is like the channel 2, or probably could be also 3, but I guess this is the channel 2. No, this is channel 3 and this is channel 4, the lead channel, I guess. Not really sure. Then gain, bass, mid, treble, presence, deep, and master. Yeah, this is my favorite amp from this suite. Let's check the pre-effects. Here's the wah pedal. This, I believe, this had quite a lot of knobs and stuff to mess with, as you can see. So first of all, there's also like wah on off switch. Then there's auto wah, if you want an auto wah and not a pedal wah. This could also be programmed to work with a real pedal through MIDI. And then there's EQ, low frequency, high frequency. And then there's auto wah sensitivity. I really don't know, but I guess this is like how strong you want the auto wah to be. Next, there is the Pillars Overdrive, which is of course modeled after the Earthquaker Devices Plumes pedal, which is the pedal you find in Neural DSP's Omega Granifier plug amp suite, if I remember correctly. It's kind of like, well, from the controls you can guess it's kind of like Tube Screamer type sound, but it also has 3 different modes, as you can see from the text. It says that number 1 has more crunch and compression, 2 has no clipping, and it's more like a clean boost type of sound, and 3 is a transparent overdrive. So depending on how strong you want your overdrive to be, or if you just want to make the sound tighter, as you usually do with a Tube Screamer type pedal, you can decide. And then there's the Strupa OD. So of course this pedal is the Boss SD1, the super overdrive. And it also has like the normal level, drive, and tone controls. So the pre-effects is really straightforward. Of course the wah is for Metallica fans, because Kirk uses a lot of wah, but also like Pantera, Zakk Wylde, all those guitar players, they could really use the wah in many situations. This is the same, the cab section, even though there are slightly different cabs. The post effects has an ADT. I don't know if this is a real pedal or just some pedal that they made for this. I am not sure. But this is like, you can basically create a Neural DSP doubler stuff if you want, or if you want it to be a delay, I believe you can do it also. So this is kind of like a delay pedal also. And then there's vintage digital delay. It's a delay pedal. There's really nothing that is so different from one another. You can see the controls, there are classic ping pong or dual delay. Yeah, I also use this one for modern metal tones. You can see here are my jaunt preset with benzene on mega channel and using the pillars overdrive. I probably should use the mode 2 because I use this as a clean boost mostly, but I have used number 1. But this also has my impulse response. And then for the last one, and this is the Doom, and I really haven't seen that many amp plugins that are catered towards Doom metal players. Because of course, like the basic thing for Doom players is like huge walls of amps and cabs. Even though there are many different kinds of flavors of Doom metal, I guess when people say Doom metal, many not so interested fans think Sun straight away. Of course, they are kind of like drone metal and not Doom metal, but like that's what people think when you mention Doom metal, like the super slow, sludgy riffs, all that kind of stuff. So it's nice that Line 6 have done this, because Neural, I don't know if I don't really see plugin suite that from Neural that is catered towards Doom metal players. So if you are a Doom metal player and you want to use amp sims, this is probably your only choice. First, let's go through the pre-effects, because there is lots of stuff to talk about. Okay, checking from the website, I can say that the Bighorn Fuzz is a 1973 Electro Harmonix Ram's Head Big Muff Pie. So, like a 70s fuzz. I really don't know my fuzz pedals or even my distortion pedals that much. I just put a precision drive or Tube Screamer. So I'm not so into these fuzz scenes. But for these Doom metal songs, I can say these work really great. And the second pedal, the fuzz pedal, is according to this website I have found, the Ringer fuzz is based on a modified FZ2 Hyperfuzz pedal from Boss. So of course you can kind of see that this is a Boss pedal it sounds good. I really don't know what else to say from these fuzz pedals. And because 2 fuzz pedals isn't enough, we also have a distortion pedal. So according to the website, again, this vital distortion is based on Earthquaker Devices live distortion. You can kind of see the imagery from that pedal. This pedal does it all. If I was a doom metal player, I would get the Earthquaker Devices or get this plugin with this pedal, because as you can see there's so many controls. I haven't ever turned every single one of them because there's so many types of stuff you can do with that pedal. So first of all, there's an octave. So this is kind of like an octaver pedal. Surprisingly, when you have a doom metal plugin, it contains amps and pedals made for the band Sun. And while I'm reading this page for this pedal, I can see that this pedal is made in collaboration with Sun, the drone metal band. So here's an octave, blending octave that is supposedly turned on with this foot switch, and then there's the distortion amount, then there's the magnitude. So yeah, the distortion, amplitude, magnitude, filter, 3 types of clipping. This pedal can do it all. I believe if you want to do like knocked loose covers for the modern metal perspective, you could get some advantage from this pedal if you don't want to buy the noise pedal that's made in collaboration with Alpha Wolf or something like that. And then there's a Pebble. This is the most simple pedal from all of this. It has 2 modes and a rate, and this is a phaser or phase shifter. And then the amps. The Moon amp is of course made to emulate the Sun amps. And then Mandarin Rocker is of course an orange rocker verb. The Doom amp is Line 6 original amp that is a JCM 800 preamp going into a high watt power amp with some tweaks on the way. And then the last amp is the mail order twin, which is Silvertone 1484 amp. And then the cabs these are not the exactly same cabs. Of course, the Cali V30 is here, but there is for the mail order twin amp, there is the matching cab, then there's a 2x12 orange cab, and also 4x12 orange with different kind of speakers, and also black back with 30. I believe these are also vintage 30s, or I could be wrong, these could be some other speakers. Otherwise, I believe the microphones are the same and all that kind of stuff. And the post effects, there's the same pedal that was with the Thrash plugin, and then there's also the delay pedal. So that was all 3 of the Line 6 Metallurgy plugins. If you want me to like tweak some tones with them, leave a comment below. This video is going to be long enough without them, so I'm not gonna include like making preset type of content in this video. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. This video took ages to do because it's 3 plugins. It's a lot to talk about. Like and subscribe. Subscribe also to my band, The Left Gate. Go listen to us on Spotify. All that kind of YouTuber stuff. Bye.